Today we're going to be installing a winch mount to my RZR 570. The RZR right now doesn't have anything on it in terms of mounting, so I bought this from Moto Alliance. So these are the two brackets where the winch will actually mount onto here, and this is the bracket for the fair lead, which mounts on the front. So I believe you still need a plate that the winch will mount onto, and then that plate will mount to here. I bought a Harbor Freight one. I don't know if it's going to work or not yet, so we'll just go through it. I'm making this video because the instructions on this aren't very good, and so hopefully we can figure it out, and then if you buy the same one, hopefully it'll be a little bit easier for you. So that's what we're doing today. So the first thing we need to remove, there are 4 screws. They are right there. Mine's just a Phillips head, although according to the instructions they should be Torx heads. So I don't know if these were replaced or if the instructions are just poorly written. But we have these 4. That'll gain us access to where we're going to be mounting all of our brackets. So it appears that they're both going to go in. And the front of this is going to be pushed up against this hole, and then on that back bracket is where that's going to be secured in. It's important that these holes are facing up, and the edge of it is on the outside of the machine. So this one is going to be going on the passenger side, kind of back like that. Get it in place. In the kit they gave me these to secure them. So basically I have a nylon lock washer and one washer. Sorry, nylon lock nut and one washer. And I don't particularly like how there's just one washer, so I'm going to be adding my own washers during this installation. So the first one I'm going to put in will be on this driver's side. So we have the first bracket, the driver's side, in place. These are 14mm bolts that they gave me, and the front was pretty easy. I just came in from the front, pushed this in, held it from the front, and then my other hand was able to come up and secure it from the back like that. This rear one was a little bit more difficult, and I knew it would be because that was the one that everyone complained about online. And what I did to make it a little bit easier, I came in from this side and pushed down with that, and it was especially hard because I was trying to hold a washer from the underside of it, and of course because gravity kept pushing it down, it kept falling off. So what I ended up doing was using my index finger to hold the washer and the nut in place, and then with my other hand I threaded the top of it and pushed it down into the nut versus threading the nut onto the bolt, if that makes any sense. And that wasn't too difficult. So the next step is just going to be putting the other side on. Before I tighten any of this stuff, I just want to make sure it's all going to fit correctly, so I don't want to tighten it yet. But we have the passenger side, and I'll try and get that one on video. On this side, I'm pushing the bolts in with the washer, like that. I'm taking my nylon nut and my washer and just putting it behind. And most of this is just going to be done kind of by feel. You have to just kind of feel where that nut is. Alright, what I'm doing here, I'm holding the nut from the back side and I'm threading it in with that same technique that I used on the driver's side rear nut. I'm just holding that nut from the back and then screwing the bolt until it captures, just because it's a lot harder for me to try and turn that from the back. Okay, so that one I can feel is on, not cross-threaded. So now we're going to move to the rear nut. Okay, I can feel that bracket is okay. Hopefully you could see some of that. Now we have a dry fit of that done. We're going to take our winch mount and set it on here to make sure that it will work. Okay, and I can see that it will work. Okay, I'm just setting this plate in here like this. Now all I'm going to do is set the far bolt holes in and just get them on there just loose, and then I'll kind of go through and tighten everything up. I'm using a washer, a lock washer, and then just a nut. Okay, I got the bolts in. If you're having a hard time with the washers falling out or falling off before you can put the nut on, one thing you can do is you can grab some like Vaseline or petroleum jelly and put a dab of it on the washer and stick it up against your plate, and that'll actually hold the washer in place. Hopefully make it a little bit easier so you don't have to hold that and put the nut on. Okay, this is a little more difficult to tighten these bolts than I thought, so I'm just going to use my air tool and hold it from the bottom side with a open end wrench. I just flipped the camera to the passenger side so you can hopefully see this one as well. What I'm doing here, I have a 14mm open end wrench, and I'm not able to get completely back there, but that's okay, don't need to. Basically you just need to be able to hold that nut just enough so it doesn't spin on you. And I'm taking the socket wrench and just tightening it down. Okay, repeat the process for the other side. Before I put the winch in there, I actually want to mount the fairlead bracket. This is what it looks like. So you have 2 bolts on the top, 2 on the bottom. These 2 bottom bolts are going to be those two holes right there. And then the bracket's going to lay on top of this big bracket. So I'm going to install those next, just with the same setup as I've done with everything else. Lock washers, and then, or not lock washers, the nylon nuts, and 2 washers on either side of the bolt. Go ahead and orient this in there. Like so. And go ahead and drop a couple bolts in to hold its place. Okay, one's in. Okay, now that I have the 2 top bolts in, it'll just kind of hold this in place, and we'll secure these 2 next, the bottom ones. And there's 2. Go ahead and put the washers in for the top bolts. Tighten the top bolts. What I end up having to do is have to come in from the front side with an open end 14 millimeter, hold it from this, and then from the top side I took a 14 millimeter ratcheting and kind of snuck my hand in from the side and did it that way. We got the top bolts secured in now. We have these bottom bolts secured. Now we're going to go ahead and actually mount our winch in on the plate.